What's going on, everyone? My name is Johnny Bandon and I'm your CCNA instructor for this CCNA video series. And in this video, we're finally going to reach a subject that I think is one of the hardest out of all the topics in the CCNA, and that is wireless. And not that wireless is a hard subject to understand, not that wireless is a crazy technology that's brand new, but for the CCNA exam, for anybody who's been in the networking field for a while, we know that wireless has always been part of our day-to-day, but it never used to be part of the CCNA. And then in 2020, when they revamped, and now moving forward, they lumped all this technology, security, wireless, data, well, not really data center, but ISP, right? There used to be different tracks for CCNA, collaboration, and now they kind of combined it into one. Now you have to go over security, wireless, and automation, and some programmability in the CCNA. So to kind of learn those three disciplines rolled up into one exam, I feel is kind of a tough thing to do. And that's why the CCNA, I think, has really improved its weight, right, as a certification, which is a good thing. But because of that, we now got to fit what used to be CCNA wireless and some of its topics condensed into one CCNA exam. And that's what this section is going to try to do. We're going to try to hit the topics that are on the exam objectives, while also not missing a lot of the bare bones and fundamentals of wireless. So this is going to be probably one of our longest sections for as far as video length goes. And it definitely has the most slides just going over wireless as a technology, because that's such a broad term, right? So really what we're going to do now is kind of break down what we're going to go over as far as the wireless technologies. And before we do that, let's go ahead and take a look at the CCNA exam objectives. So bring my face out of view. Let's go to the CCNA exam objectives. So if you just go to Google and type in CCNA exam topics or objectives, it'll bring you to this link. This is the first one I clicked on. So in this section for Trepa Technology CCNA course, this is section 7. You see that is section 7. Sorry about that. But this is going to go over stuff in section 1, 2, and 4, I believe. Maybe not 2, just 1 and 4. So if we take a look at section 1 here, you can see that section 1 says you need to describe wireless principles. So what are the non-overlapping Wi-Fi channels, or really what are Wi-Fi channels, right? To describe the non-overlapping ones, you got to understand what a Wi-Fi channel is. What is a service set identifier, SSID? And this one, that's why it's funny. It's so broad, like describe wireless principles, radio frequency. I mean, there's people whose whole careers are completely RF related. I know guys that I worked with when I was in the military. My Army job was RF, working with satellite communications and specifically RF. So there's whole careers and jobs dedicated to just radio frequencies. But the CCNA says describe it in one subsection of a subsection that's only worth 20%. And so it's kind of hard, as a trainer, it's like, okay, well, how deep do we go? And you kind of got to look past just the exam for some things in this training course, because, well, I'm going to teach you RF and I'm going to teach you the way I know how. We're not a physics major, but you need to understand. And then encryption, another just blanket term that's wild, right? Because that's a whole thing in itself too. There's whole cybersecurity or security engineers that deal with the enterprise that purely focus on wireless and networking security. That's their whole job. But again, we're going to try to break it down in just one subsection. And then I believe in network access, yes. And then in section 2, we got some more things to go over. So we're going to discuss all the wireless architectures and AP modes. And there's like 3 or 4, there's a couple we're going to go over at a broad overview. We're going to describe all the different infrastructure that's needed in a wireless LAN. So it's going to be our access points, our controllers, how we do our switching, right? Can we configure lag, which is link aggregation grouping? Or not can we configure, but how do we configure it for our wireless LAN controllers and our APs? And then how do we manage our wireless infrastructure? So when we deploy an AP, and we deploy or set up and manage a wireless LAN controller, how do we manage it? What's the different types of access? What kind of ports does it have? The service port via versus management port, or even its console port. And then we're going to go over components of a wireless LAN. So how does our client connect? And then how do we create different wireless LANs within our enterprise? So that's going to have to deal with like a lot of VLAN to SSID mapping, how we logically segment, the different profiles we can put on our wireless LANs. And even at your home network, you probably notice this. You may have a guest network and then your regular home network. And so we're going to go into that. And again, it's just so broad. It says discuss advanced wireless LAN settings. So now we'll kind of just have to guess like, what do they mean by that? Advanced wireless LAN settings. I know how to create a QoS profile, but there's so much you can do with this. For these topics, a kind of a high level overview, get into the wireless LAN controller at a virtualized network, show you how to deploy a wireless LAN, how do we plan for it, and then try to meet these exam objectives. And again, when we say try, we're going to go over it. It just, maybe on the test they want something a little bit more specific that they didn't put about a QoS profile. That's kind of what my students have told me in the past. And then the last thing about wireless we're going to go over is the security. So then we have down here wireless security, and that's going to be the end of this section, or it may even start our next section, which is the security section of CCNA that we're going to go over. But we're going to go over the wireless protected authentication, what is pre-shared keys versus enterprise. And then it says that we need to configure a wireless LAN using the GUI. So we're going to go over that as well in our lab. And then speaking of lab and infrastructure that we can replicate at home. I'll probably go over this in the lab demonstration as well. But in this intro video, I kind of want to go over with you what's possible at home, right? So as you guys know, if you've been following my course or my CCNA lessons, you know I use EVE-NG to emulate real network devices. Well, here, in EVE-NG, in your environment as well, you're able to emulate wireless LAN controllers. Then you can you bridge that out through your VM network, and I'll go over that with you guys when it comes down to the lab. And then you can actually reach your wireless LAN controller's GUI via the web. And this is like any other setup. As far as physical goes, when you set up a physical wireless LAN controller, it's going to make you go through the same CLI steps on initial setup, even when you configure it in EVE-NG. And then again here, we'll get to like what the actual GUI looks like. We need to actually do advanced configuration or complete configuration. And then here, this wireless LAN controller running in EVE-NG actually does have real world access points. I have a 3700 and 3800 series AeroNet Cisco access points that it's actually communicating with. Pretty cool. We don't have 802.11ax Wi-Fi 6 in there yet, but it's the same, right? We can show you how to configure on real Cisco wireless LAN controllers. You can also put in here, which I have, and available to our students, is, let me look for it, this 9800 wireless LAN controller series, which are based off iOS XE. They're not that they're different than a dedicated wireless LAN controller, but a little bit different in how you initially deploy it. So this is what you can do for free. You may have to download this virtual wireless LAN controller from Cisco, and that may have a cost. Or there may be other ways you can find this iOS. Of course, we do everything ethically here, though. And then to kind of bring myself back to the camera, what you can also do is what I've done in the past and what I did for here as well in our wireless section is you can go on eBay or Amazon and actually like order a wireless CCNA wireless lab equipment. So let me show you. And here we actually have a wireless LAN controller, a 2500 series that you can actually play with in real world. Now, when you're ordering this, you got to be careful because you want to make sure it has the latest license or software. Because this one, I'm in the middle of upgrading it. I didn't want to for our lab. I was like, let me get done with this wireless lab and I'll upgrade this and do some bonus with it, like real world stuff. but I had to upgrade it so that these access points could connect. My 3702i Aeronet series. I ordered this, so it's part of the same package. And since it's eBay, you know, who knows where you're buying from. This had, I think, like the very first firmware image in it. And these new access points can't connect to 7.2 image that's in this wireless access point. So later on, there'll be like a bonus video going over like real world setup, how we actually like put it up on the ceiling and stuff like that. I'll do that video with you as well as part of a bonus. And then got some more wireless access points. So we got this bad boy. This is a 5500 series wireless LAN controller. And this is going to be for our more robust network. So we start thinking about high availability and thousands of access points. You're going to want something more robust. And we'll go over the newer Cisco flavors of this. The 9800 series is part of that. But yeah, so we have some good stuff here for our wireless course. And then, of course, you also have Cisco Packet Tracer, which, you know, it goes against my morals to go over to use Packet Tracer because it's simulating network equipment, not actually doing it. You don't have to go through the pain and struggle of installing something on EVE-NG. It's just there for you simulated. You know, I'm not a big fan of that, but you can use Packet Tracer to get some hands-on experience in the wireless LAN controller GUI. So let me show you that. And this is free for download as well. When we get to the lab, I'll show you how to download Cisco Packet Tracer, even though I do not like it. Let's see. Try to get this open. I mean, look at it. It just sucks. Not to hate on Cisco, but I'm not a big fan of Packet Tracer. So you got to log into it, which is fine, right? So hopefully I get this first time try. Oh, let's continue with Google, of course. You gotta love OAuth 2.0, single sign-on, right? But yeah, now Packet Tracer. Let me get my head out of view here. Join it up. As you can see here, you can deploy these these wireless LAN controllers. You can connect it to a switch, and then you can connect an end device, a PC. And you can use this PC to GUI in to this wireless LAN controller, but it's just not the same. You don't get full functionality anyways on Packet Tracer. But for people that can't download the virtual wireless LAN controller software from Cisco, you can't afford to buy real lab equipment, because it's more than just a wireless LAN controller. You gotta buy access points, a switch, and then the actual wireless LAN controller that may not even be fully licensed. If you can't do that, Packet Tracer is a free solution to get hands-on on the GUI. And I believe you can use this to pass the exam. It's just my personal belief that you need to start emulating and getting real world equipment if you want to be serious about your career and you don't get the practice at work because you're too junior and they won't let you touch the wireless, right? So this is a good alternative and it's free. And we will go over it. I think I might make it a bonus video. I haven't decided yet. But we will go over Packet Tracer. And there's great trainers, like all the trainers I learned from on YouTube, they use Packet Tracer for their wireless section, and I understand because it's more accessible, but we take it up a notch here at Tripa Technologies, right? All right, guys. So that was one hell of a intro. Now let's actually go into the technology. So I'll see you in the next video.